Hi, welcome. So
Hi.
This is Jed, Daniel, and Joel with Skookum Arts. We released The Pedestrian, our first game, back in January. So now it's been close to 5 months that we've had that really long project. Took us close to 6 years to complete. So now that that's done and we're kind of rested up and everything, we wanted to take a little bit of time. And while it's still fresh in our mind, we want to play through the entire game and kind of just give our thoughts about how everything went. We can look at everything kind of with a different perspective now that we're not really deep in the weeds with everything. So that's basically it. Anything else we're thinking? Nope. So I think we're gonna get started. Enjoy. So we're back. This is the very, very beginning of the game. So this intro is something that we kind of tossed around for a good while, whether or not to have an intro. And I think the original intro was going to be something wildly different.
Yeah, well, we originally had a whole story, like this cutesy little story of the male bathroom character going on this journey to find the female bathroom character. And that's what everybody assumed the story of the game was about. And we didn't really want to go for that kind of stereotypical storytelling trope. And so we wanted to do something a little bit more abstract. And this whole opening sequence was to kind of get people prepared for this like headspace you're going to be in, very
concepts and abstract thinking rather than kind of story.
Yeah, and
the
so
traditional kind of story
and
sense.
so I animated this whole thing in Photoshop, and I wanted to really kind of like give the feeling of the conception of an idea, like just the inkling of something and how it can fly into your thoughts and kind of take over into like the very core of your mind. Yeah.
So one of the things that we did was that intro video. We wanted it to kind of seamlessly go into the start of the game. So the end of the video kind of syncs up with this, which now I have the controller, and so I can move it. So it just syncs into the beginning character.
Yeah, which kind of threw a lot of people off because all gamers expect a start menu.
Sure.
But we like to see our game more as like a piece of art. Like a movie or something,
or like a book,
or a book, something where it's just like we want to remove as much of the distractions as possible. You're in the game and you don't have to think about anything else. Yeah,
we wanted to start out very, very simple, with only a dot on a screen going in in one dimension, so you can only go back and forth. We had to add the arrow in there because people were getting confused and they thought it was still loading, so we added the arrow in there to try to help them.
Yeah.
One of the interesting points, so once you get to this point, this is where you select whether or not you want to play as the female character or the male character. And we actually did this on purpose, had it so that you select with right and left, because we didn't want you to have to change the axis. We didn't want you to have to push up or down because that would have been easier. So you move sideways, then you push up or down to select the character. But we wanted to continue with only having to move in one direction.
Yeah, because the whole idea is we're trying to start the game out as simple as possible, where it's just literally a dot and you can only move left and right. And then as you progress, we keep piling on more and more ideas and mechanics and the ability to do things.
Yeah.
So
then right here, as soon as I selected the character, now the camera starts pulling back. So we just added in another dimension into the game, which is the Z dimension. So
the depth.
Yeah, the depth.
Yeah, and it triggers Logan's awesome music.
And then at this point, we've just kind of revealed like, hey, you're on a whiteboard. Here's things that are happening. So
yeah, just to kind of like give that feeling of like this slow progression of like, oh, I'm here now. You didn't know you were even in a room. You thought you were just in this white void, and you're actually just on this sketch pad. So
yeah, and it carries on with the idea of the kind of conception of an idea, or the conception of a thought, with all these like sketches of the game, of the, I don't know, his thought process.
Yeah.
You know, where it starts small and it grows and grows, and then now it's, you know, becoming a reality.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, it's kind of what we want players to feel when playing the game is. It's like, what is reality? What is actually just an idea jotted down on paper? And what is actually happening in this proverbial real world?
And so then at this point, we kind of change it up, and you kind of go from the concept, like we were saying, you go from like a dot to a sketch to something in the world on this sign.
Yeah.
And so this is something that we had to do too, to stop people from going back on the whiteboard, because it kind of it kind of screws with stuff. We added in this little piece of paper, so that if you do go back, you just go into this white
which took a lot more work to make happen than you would imagine.
And then we go over here.
So yeah, yet again, we're trying to fade things in, help you understand things as slowly as possible. We force you into the most simple of situations so that you can completely understand how to play the game.
Yeah, so like right here, you wouldn't have to, the only thing that you would have had to use up to this point is just going left and right. And then this is the first time you have to do anything other than that, which is just press the Y button.
Or the F key.
Yeah, or the F key.
Yeah.
And then we have something very simple where you can't move any of the signs, you can't do anything other than click and connect the doors. And then as soon as that happens, we switch back to tell you, hey, you've got to go back into play mode. One little funny thing that I think Joel did is the clock is actually, I think, real time. So if you stand here and watch the clock for whatever, an hour, it'll actually pass an hour.
Yeah. So this is kind of a little way to show that you're, you know, starting the game kind of in the morning. Yeah, like all of these kind of small iterations also helps with our idea of like not putting text in the game. Like the little TV tutorial things are there to kind of explicitly show you things without telling you things.
Yeah.
Kind of how like actual signs are supposed to portray an idea in the simplest terms, with just a little visual icon. So we use those, and doing stuff really simply and doing things, you know, constrained and tight helps to portray that idea of, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do, is just connect these two, and that's it, and not try to overwhelm them.
Here's a little Easter egg up here in the top right.
Well, it's more than an Easter egg. It's more of a big foreshadowing story point that we just kind of imply here. And
yeah, because this is the end of the game. This is literally...
don't ruin it.
What? Well, what are we going to tell them? Okay.
But yeah, I mean, you wouldn't know, unless you've played the game before, you wouldn't know what that picture is on the wall. So it's kind of cool to see.
I guess the other thing to note here would be like the little sticky note here. We kind of show that this is a puzzle. So anytime, because there are some signs that going into puzzle mode, going in and out of like managing the signs isn't really useful. So we denote the puzzles with this little sticky note.
And the sticky notes can also show, you know, your goals.
Yeah.
Whether it's to get an object or other things. So it's not always a puzzle icon.
Yeah. And so this is the first time you have to jump.
Yep. Piece
so
of cake.
We just make sure that you know what key to press. This is actually a good sign to see like the detail on the signs. We put a lot of work into getting the signs like back in the day when this was just a really simple 2D game, all the signs were super flat. We had no lighting in the game whatsoever. And so we put in lighting, and then I would say probably 4 months from the game being released, something like that, we put in different kind of like themes or styles to the signs, where there was like a scratched metal. We put in like a paper for like the previous one, and there's some other ones that we'll see later on. But
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is just more stuff to
testing your jumping skills.
Jump. Yeah, one of the if you haven't seen anything about our game or anything, all of the movement through the world is done through these doors between signs, and so everything's fluid in the sense that there's no cuts or anything like that. All the movement just happens, and you're in control. So as I move between this sign, I can stop at any point.
Yeah.
I can just stop moving, and I can just look at whatever.
Right. Yeah, that was
that
was a high priority for us to have no loading screens, nothing. So, like, if you played the game from start to finish, it would be, as they call in film, a oneer. The whole game is one camera shot, no cuts through the entire game. There's no loading screens or anything. So we thought that was a really nice. It was very challenging to make it work, but I think it really helps the game feel like you're more a part of it, because there's nothing kind of distracting you from just being in that place.
So this is just kind of a nice little thing. Like, there's some little like kind of world story points. This really doesn't do anything, but Daniel placed. So like, there's this sign laying on the street. So just to kind of cement its position in the world, he put like bolts here and a screwdriver.
Yeah, but
for where you would like take the sign off.
Yeah, exactly. Not only that, it kind of asks a question like, who would just unscrew a sign and put it down on the ground? Was there somebody that actually did that? And
sure, yeah.
Who is that person? So we want to keep asking these small questions as you progress through the game, and that's kind of our main our main way of telling the story. So first,
yeah, and so this is kind of like the first like legit puzzle in a way. And so this is the first time you can actually like click and move the signs.
Mm-hmm. Pretty straightforward stuff.
So all of these puzzles at the very beginning of the game, we did kind of very intentionally with, so the very first puzzle, you couldn't move any signs. This puzzle, you can move signs, but it's only doors. So we're like trying to slowly ramp up. And so then this puzzle here, you can move the signs, you can connect the doors, but now there's also ladders, which are like vertical transitions.
Yeah, so just making sure you understand each thing one piece at a time.
Yeah. One of the things that we added this later on to kind of help people understand. Whenever you start going through a door, you'll see like there's little stripes on the doors that pop up. So as soon as I went through there, that means that I've gone through this whole connection. So there's stripes on the entry that I came in and on the exit. And then also this connection between the two lines is also striped. So we put in as much feedback as we could for like visual feedback to kind of drive that point home.
All of these tutorials are like super basic, and they're definitely very necessary for players to understand, but there's nothing super interesting about them. I mean, I will say, like, this area especially, like this whole first like 20 minutes of the game, Logan Hayes, our the guy that's done our music, he's been freaking amazing. I wish he could be here to do this with us, because he could probably comment on so many things about how challenging the music was for this game. I worked with Logan. Well, okay, so we met him at a convention back in like 2000. 16, I think it was. And he's been working with us on the game ever since then. So like 4 years he's been working with us on the game. At the time, he didn't really know much about jazz music and all of that kind of stuff. He was a really great musician, and he just took it upon himself because I told him like I wanted that feeling of like classic jazz and a combination of really good orchestral music. And so he spent like probably about a year just studying jazz music and that kind of feel. And Logan and I just kept going back and forth on the kind of music we liked until we came to this kind of like interesting style. It's like a fusion of genres in a way. I'm like super happy with how it turned out. And not only was it challenging to kind of discover the style of music, but making music dynamic where it will come in at proper times and it'll loop the right way and layer in different ways depending on what you're doing. It's making music for a video game is a lot different than making music for a movie.
Yeah, and that was actually one of the that was kind of one of the challenges of the music, that really we didn't have enough time to do the music justice in a lot of areas and getting it to work well with the gameplay and everything. It still turned out very well, but we could have done a lot better to make his music stand out more.
For sure.
Yeah, but this shot right here, up until this point, we've tried to limit the amount of depth you could see. And so this is the first shot that kind of opens up. And so this is one of those...
we call them like Vista Shots or establishing shots. We want to, every new area you come to, you get a good view of what you're going to be playing inside of. And most of the time you can see off in the background, like, this is something that I'm going to go to.
So you can see the 2 upcoming puzzles. Actually, you can see 2 upcoming puzzles. You can see a puzzle down there toward the bottom too.
Yeah,
that you'll be going to.
I can't even tell you how stressful and how many iterations we went through just to get the right camera angles for every single one of these shots, because every single time you go to a new sign, that's a custom camera angle, a custom camera distance, the depth of field for the camera. All of that stuff is meticulously adjusted by us, and it just took a lot of work to make it look exactly how we wanted to, and a lot of fighting back and forth because we all have different opinions, but I won in the end, of course.
Sure.
Because it looks good.
So here's another thing that we did was like all the signs that can't move have like bolts or some type of fixture to like hold them down.
Yeah, everything has to visually make sense. If you're like, well, why doesn't it work like I expect? Oh, because it's got bolts on it.
So this is the first time that you like get to the... This is the first time you use a key and door mechanic, so we show you that you have to press E or the B button to use it, to pick it up. And then, because that's the first time you use it, we just show it, and then we don't show that anymore, but...
Yeah.
Whoosh. And then, here, this is just more kind of intro to puzzle mechanics. So the Vista shot... basically all of the like depth of field is very similar in all the locations except for the Vista shots, which we just I think we just removed depth of field altogether, so you can kind of see everything more clearly, because right now you can kind of see the puzzle in the background, but it's pretty blurry compared to where the Vista shot was. And so then here the music kind of builds up.
We wanted those moments of music to kind of like the music to be very subtle and almost not even there, so that those moments when the music swells back in, it feels a lot more climactic and like something's actually happening. It definitely adds more impact to certain moments.
Yeah, so it's crazy too, because a lot of these puzzles have been, like, this puzzle and a lot of the beginning puzzles we've had for like, I don't know, probably close to 6 years or something. It's crazy.
This one especially has probably been around maybe more like 5 years. Yeah,
and they've
back before we even really knew it was going to be a 3D game. I think some of these puzzles have just been slightly modified.
Yeah, they've just like slightly changed their shape. We've made some of them look a little less wacky.
Yeah,
because like originally they were a lot bigger and they had a lot of weird shapes to them, but we kind of made them more blocky and a little more straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is one of those signs that you can't really do anything with, but it's just kind of
a visual explanation for why it can't move. More just, I guess you could call it housekeeping, just making sure the player knows this lever does this lever does this. What the heck?
Yeah, and you can see that by going into puzzle mode, and you see the like kind of walking ants line or whatever.
Yeah.
So those get definitely more important later on when there's multiple levers and buttons and elevators and all that stuff is just kind of scattered around. So that when you're actually playing and moving your stuff around, it's all clean and clear and you don't have to worry about it. But then when you're doing the planning and, you know, connecting and figuring stuff out, you have all the information like right there. You don't have to hover over anything. You don't have to do any of that. It's just right in front of you.
And look at that subtle swing to the sign. Jed made a what we call a sequence animation script for us to just do simple, clean animations, and like all of these were custom made by us to just kind of give it a little bit more appeal.
Yeah, just to add a little bit more life into the world. So like the fans moving, a lot of like the little like pressure dials, like the little needle on the pressure dials moving. A lot of these signs just gently move. And so this one's just more...
just explaining how buttons work.
Yeah.
It's pretty standard stuff.
Buttons and then levers.
And how they're different.
Yeah, we oh yeah, you can cheat that. Yeah, for the longest time, we literally probably spent years, not all on its own, but like for a really long time, we tried to avoid the puzzle game tropes of buttons and levers and keys and doors and that kind of stuff. But, you know, we came up with some things and we came to the realization that those are too hard to explain to a player, and sticking with something that people recognize is probably best because we don't want to confuse them because there's already these complex ideas they have to kind of process in their head.
I think a lot of it was just that we were married to the ideas more than anything else, because we started out very inexperienced with puzzle building and everything. We built a lot of puzzles with these particular mechanics that we were used to.
Yeah.
And then by the time we could have changed them, we were already so far gone with a lot of the ideas that we couldn't really. So a lot of our new mechanics are kind of different and off the wall, but some of the mechanics that were originally implemented are more of the traditional kind of puzzle mechanics.
Which is kind of a shame. That is something that we would have really liked to be different.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you're a puzzle gamer, it's not like that's going to bother you.
And it does give you a nice, like, accessible base to start off on.
Right.
Like, we're still, the new, you know, connecting signs together is kind of the main thing. And so having these kind of familiar mechanics to go along with it makes it more accessible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then we can build off of that with some crazier ones.
Right.
Yeah, so like this right there on the wall, we have tons and tons of decals and things that were from Kickstarter people.
Yeah.
That we put in various places throughout the game.
Everyone that was a part of our Kickstarter was amazing, and they were super supportive during the entire wait of, they had to wait for 3 years, I think it was. They had to wait for 3 years until the game actually came out. And everyone was so supportive the whole time, and the people that worked with us to put their different decals and their different logos and stuff in the game, they were really awesome, and it was a lot of fun to work with them. So I'm happy we got to do that.
Yeah. Here's something kind of goofy. We had this problem with the elevators where you can, if you are on the edge of the elevator, if you press up and get off the elevator really quickly, now I'm stuck. And so we had this problem for such a long time, and so we've just built into all the puzzles where this can happen. We just put like either a place where you can either call the elevator back down or something like that, or we put it in a saw so you can just kill yourself. It resets this little sign in the sign above it, and then you can get back on it. So
easy.
Instead
and
of
everybody likes to test out the saw blade there, so it's kind of a fun little thing to introduce.
This is the first time you see a saw blade.
Yeah.
And we intro that you can use a button, and if you go into puzzle mode, you can see that the button is connected to the elevator.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is a different version of our sign. This is a dirty sign. I think maybe the other signs were dirty.
Yeah.
But
yeah, just to add some variation to the signs, make them not all look samey.
Oh, they're so dirty.
yeah, it's crazy how like this area, the factory with the boxes and everything. I feel like we've redesigned the factory probably at least 3 times.
Yeah, actually, well, see, this
With
is
like different.
This is kind of how not to make a game. How we made this game is how you don't make a game. It turned out to be an awesome game, but it's a warehouse, by the way. It's not a factory. It started out as just like a maintenance closet, and then it turned into an actual factory. And then we turned it back into just like a warehouse. And it changed in size and how deep you went into it. It used to just be a cinder block wall that you went across, and that was it. Like when you have when you iterate on things so much, other things affect other things, and then this thing that you put a lot of work into now becomes obsolete, so you've got to change this, and that might change something else. So there's just so many things that would that we'd always have to change just because we were evolving as game developers and the game was evolving. So yeah.
It was also like a consistency thing because, you know, the game took 6 years to make. These earlier places were made a lot longer, you know, ago, and then we went to the later parts of the game and we made them a bit more fancy, and then it's like, okay, well, we should, you know, make this a little bit better looking so that it doesn't look out of place. And that, along with like just the models of things, like those pipes have been remade twice, and some other 3 times.
Yeah. Ugh.
and you know, just updating some old graphics.
Yeah. Oh, but that ugly. That thing up in the left corner. That thing is like 6 years old at this point. That was one of the first assets I made for the game, and I had no idea what I was doing.
We don't know what it is.
But see, that was usually what happened. Is like we would build an area with stuff that we had, assets that we had in the game at the time. And then as we would build the area more, we would replace those old assets with other stuff. And it would always get to a certain point where it's like, all right, we've put enough work into this area, let's move on. And I would run out of time to update something like that ugly, what is that, a circuit box?
We don't know.
Some kind of
Yeah, dude, it's got like lollipops in it.
Yeah.
And it's also one of those things, like if we don't use it a whole lot, then it gets potentially overlooked.
Yeah.
Hidden.
While
It's
like
hidden.
these pipes are everywhere in the game.
Yeah.
That thing's probably, I don't know, 2 places, 3 places.
Sure.
Yeah.
So there's a little thing, it's moving. A little needle is moving.
The fan's
lovely.
moving.
Ooh, something that's kind of interesting. This wall texture
Oh yeah, it's
is from a place where we live. There's a town like 20 minutes south of where we live.
Yeah.
They have like a little downtown bit, and this painted, this peeling paint texture.
Yeah. I mean, we don't live very close to many like major cities, but you know, I would go to any towns that I could, and like I would just spend hours with my iPhone getting up really close to walls and pipes and gutters and stuff like that. getting reference photos, trying to also get high-res enough images for making tileable textures and stuff. So a lot of the textures in the game are actually from just random stuff I took pictures of with my iPhone.
And so then this shot is just kind of like a ending shot to see what you've kind of done.
Yeah, we kind of do this every once in a while. It's not like an establishing shot anymore. It's just kind of like a farewell, kind of like you finished it. There it is.
And so that kind of ends, that right there ends the kind of tutorial section of the game. And now you kind of get into, this is more or less like the driving force behind the character and you as the player, which is this Game Boy thingy.
Yeah, let's talk about this really quick. So, it's super complicated. This was kind of like a last resort. This whole game. It's not a Game Boy. No, it's a game. It's a play. Oh, we can't say Playboy.
The mobile game console.
Yeah. So it's like we needed some kind of we needed something to carry the player's motive. And it was like maybe 6 months before we were planning on launching the game, and we're like, we don't have like something that is carrying the player's motive through the whole game. We want to have this thing that gives you a sense of progression, and we also want to have this thing that asks
it's
a
like
big question.
a carrot on a stick type of thing, where it's like as soon as you come in here, you plug in the battery and you see, oh, there's whatever 6 more circles that you can plug stuff into. So yeah, so this whole Game Boy was just put in just for that, to basically give the player something to look forward to and something to push them forward.
Yeah, and actually I was really pushing for making this gamepad to actually be a playable world inside. We were getting close to actually doing it, where it's like once you get into this little screen here, then you would be able to run around as if you're playing Mario or something like that. And the whole idea would be, as you progress through the big 3D world, every time you come back to the gamepad here, you would be unlocking other areas in this little 2D world that's in this game, inside the game.
Yeah.
So we really liked that idea, and we were really going to go for it. I think it would have been super fun. But that's
too much work and too much time for it. But
yeah, the story of the entire production of this game is like, oh, would have been cool, ran out of time.
yeah.
So yeah, another custom shader for the signs to make it look like brushed metal.
So this is actually like reflecting the scene behind you and everything.
Yeah.
On this. Oh, so this is the first time that something like in the world actually happens.
Yeah, when people see this for the first time, they're like, whoa, I'm actually like affecting the real world. And it really makes you question, what is actually happening here?
Then we hit the button.
So that is the end of the first area.
Yep.
We've established what you do in this game and how you do it.
We'll see you in the next video. I think we're gonna stop this one for now, and then we'll pick up in the next area. So I hope you enjoyed that little behind the scenes insight into how we made the first area.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Yep.